Good afternoon. I started teaching in 1987. It's 2017. Is that 31 years? And in 31 years, I still have not gotten my students to come to the front of the classroom. So I'm not sure what strategy to use. I'm looking at Dave in the teaching center. Maybe I'll go for some remedial work over the next few months. Happy New Year and welcome to the... Happy New Year and welcome to the 2018 Fiat Lux Address. I'd like to begin by recognizing that our university rests on traditional territory of the Blackfoot people. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you for taking the time to join me. Welcome to everyone also joining us online and those in Calgary as we stream this address to the Calgary campus. And in case I forget, after related to questions, can people please come up to the mic because we do want to make sure that the Calgary campus hears the questions. Welcome to the spring semester of the 2017-18 academic year at the University of Lethbridge and the start of our 51st year as a university. Celebrating our 50th anniversary this past year and reflecting on those who preceded us, those individuals whose wisdom and tenacity made the impossible possible with the creation and continued growth of our university, have been a highlight of my presidency and have solidified many things for me. First, it's my firm belief that we are on the correct course with the vision outlined in our strategic plan, Destination 2020. Like the founders before us, we understand that a shared vision doesn't suggest we've arrived at an end goal. Rather, it validates the past 50 years and has brought us to this point in time, and that our strategies and our priorities continue to guide us firmly in the direction forward. Second, as my mother said, our work is never done. We are setting the stage for the next 50 years. Continuing our momentum and trajectory as an institution is critical to our success. Destination 2020, in my opinion, is not the finish line. In reality, we've just started a new journey. And thirdly, there are more questions to ask ourselves. What does our future look like? And what specific initiatives should we undertake? What aspirational goals can we set for ourselves as we look forward to the future? A future that I believe is very bright. I'm using this time to look forward, but of course I recognize that there are some obstacles and challenges that we face today and in the near term. There will always be challenges. We need to face those challenges, but continue to look on the horizon, even if we have some rough waters. We will look forward through, of course, tough budget decisions over the next year as we continue to have funding challenges that will persist. Our resources will, of course, as always, be further stretched. We, of course, at the same time, have navigated such challenges over the last several years with our core values in mind, and we will continue this prudent work knowing that the consideration of people, quality, and access will continue to guide what we do. Despite the pressures we know these values will be subjected to, we will remain committed to them, as well as the concepts of fairness and equity as best we are able. We have also been navigating an evolving legislative environment, and we will meet this, as always, with great respect. We will continue to work collegially in this new labor environment in the province, recognizing that our employees and our employee groups represent one of the most important commodities or groups of people on campus. In fact, the opportunity to work together into the future, I think, is very strong. And I challenge us as a university community to meet that challenge. In many ways, working through tough issues creates opportunities to build stronger relationships and make our institution stronger. What really keeps us moving forward and able to overcome our challenges at this university is you, the world-class faculty, committed staff, engaged students, dedicated volunteers, and advocates. Exceptional people all working together to a common shared goal, to serve students and to build a better society. I want to thank all of you for your contributions to who we are today. So let's talk about the future. The path forward begins by asking those questions as mentioned earlier and by being guided by the framework outlined by our Vice Presidents, Drs. Andy Haken and Erasmus O'Kine at last year's Fiat Lux Address. If you recall, they outlined a thematic framework that has been crucial to the university through our formative years, and, as I'm sure you would agree, are crucial for our future. It is essential we focused on these as we define our shared mission. So, to refresh you, those were the student environment, academic programming, research culture, and connection to community. As they outlined, and I want to reinforce, our attention to these themes have kept us focused in our development and kept us on track. What I suggest is that our continued attention to them will guide us soundly into the future. It is using those 4 themes as a guide that I now pose the following questions and challenges. First, our student environment. What does it truly mean to be a destination university? We have been successful in establishing ourselves as Alberta's destination university. But now we must focus on becoming a destination for Canada and for the world. Why? Because our impact is not geographically local. Because our offerings are relevant, transformational, and desired by people and communities around the world. And our local community is enriched significantly by the students, faculty, and staff that come here from across Canada and from the over 80 countries around the world. So how do we do this? By increasing the breadth of where our students come from in Canada. Like other destination universities in the country, we need to expand our reach. While serving Albertans, the reach of our institution needs to expand to students across Canada. Our enrollment demographics need to reflect our aspirations as a destination university. We should be attracting students from all areas of the country to our campuses. We should no longer be reliant on our primary markets of Alberta, Southern BC, and Saskatchewan to serve our enrollment needs. We will do this by increasing the number of international students at our university. We will grow our international student population to 10% of our overall student population. Increased diversity is good for our students, the university, and also good for society. The university should be a leader in the community, especially in these times of heightened tensions, in encouraging and promoting tolerance and diversity. We play an important role in bringing the world to this community and offering a global experience to our Canadian students. Our new strategic internationalization plan has 4 pillars, with one being internationalization at home. It is important for us to promote international perspectives on our campuses and in the classroom. We also have an opportunity to expand our theory into practice programs. The recent Global Education Report set out a targeted plan for Canada's governments, post-secondary institutions, and the private sector to dramatically increase the number of young people participating in international study, co-ops, and internships over the next 10 years, with particular emphasis on raising access and participation of Indigenous youth and those from underrepresented groups. We too need to grow our offerings. I recognize that we are one of Canada's leading universities in the country on this front, with opportunities in nearly every discipline. I would like us to consider how we can become the leader in Canada in offering these experiential learning opportunities and career pathways. We can also enhance our student-focused mental health initiatives as well as other students' supports. Over the last number of years, we have built a comprehensive program focused on supporting student mental health. Finding ways to make these supports sustainable in light of provincial government funding challenges is absolutely necessary. Reducing barriers to equity, diversity, and inclusivity on our campuses, the communities we serve, and broader society is the right thing to do, and attracting and retaining students, faculty, staff, and leaders from all backgrounds remains key. We are committed to being active champions of equity, diversity, and inclusivity in all things we do. We have already submitted an action plan in response to the Canada Research Chairs program, and I'm looking forward to further action in the coming year as we have committed to the inclusive excellence principles outlined by Universities Canada. We will continue to work with our extended administration and employee groups to ensure that inclusion remains an important priority. We should consider opportunities to offer a more immersive experience as well for our students. More options for students to live on campus, and the more deliberate opportunities, for example, like the library that has in recent years reconfigured their opportunities to create spaces for collaboration, should be directions we undertake all across campus. The atriums in U-Hall and Markin Hall are ripe opportunities for this direction, as is, of course, the Destination Project. Part of that immersive experience must also include pronghorn athletics and recreation services for the leadership development sport provides, the school pride and spirit it generates, and the holistic well-being and balance it fosters in not only our students, but also our community and city. In the same way, increasing student experiences in fine arts, extracurricular academic programs, speaker series, and the like are ways to achieve this. Finally, I believe that our enrollment should continue to see managed yet strategic growth that is consistent with our student-focused philosophy. For one, at the heart of our founding principles is accessibility. Also, despite record enrollment growth over the last couple of years, our campus footprint is increasing. We can see it out the windows. And with that comes an expectation to increase our student population. We must realize that our categorization as a comprehensive academic and research institute in Alberta comes with the challenge of continuing to increase our student population. Secondly, academic programming. Another question we need to ask is, what does our academic programming look like as we evolve as a comprehensive university? Over the last number of years, we have been recognized as one of Canada's top primarily undergraduate universities. But it's time to focus on furthering our recognition as a comprehensive university. In fact, it's time to submit the U of L to international rankings for consideration. International students look to these rankings to inform their decision-making. The federal government looks to these rankings to make many decisions as time has evolved. It's time for us to be brave. How do we evolve our academic programs? We grow our professional programs. I am very supportive of the direction of the Faculty of Arts and Science and the broader community to pursue an engineering program. An engineering program unique in design, one that sets us apart from our competitors and serves the needs of our region and industries vital to Southern Alberta. We can do this because we have an incredible research and teaching capacity that we've developed over the last 50 years. Such a program, if developed, when coupled with our outstanding research, has great potential to solve problems for our communities and industries and contribute to the diversification of our economy. Our liberal education foundation should be embedded throughout the entire undergraduate and graduate student experience, including our existing professional faculties. At General Faculties Council, I have heard great support for the new School of Liberal Education, and I know its principles are embraced by our university community. In many cases, it's simply a matter of diversifying and formalizing these offerings. The Destination Project also presents a unique and a grand challenge for our academic programming in transdisciplinary design. While this work has begun, we must direct our curricular reviews to ensure that our programs are reflective of this transdisciplinary design and transdisciplinary research that will be featured in this new building. The university has experienced considerable growth in graduate education in recent years. Indeed, in the last few years, we have implemented new PhD programs in education, health sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. We have also launched important new professional graduate programs, such as the Master of Nursing program. It is therefore no surprise to me that our graduate student numbers have crested 600 this year, which is a historical high, and that we are poised to further grow with the number of new proposed graduate programs. However, I want to challenge our community to reconsider our capacity for growing graduate programs. Looking at comprehensive universities similar to our own, if we look at the University of Regina, for example, we tend to see a proportion of graduate students around 12% of the total student population. For us to reach a similar proportion, we will need to double our current graduate student enrollment. I feel strongly that we have the ability to do it. When I consider our top of category Research InfoSource ranking for graduate research intensivity, when I consider that the most comparable comprehensive universities have at least a 2-to-1 overall ratio of graduate students to faculty members, when I consider opportunities for new graduate programs, and when I consider the unequivocally high quality of the research and creative activity of our faculty members, I know that a doubling of our graduate student numbers is a goal that we should strive for. This presents an opportunity to review and renew our program. Our respective disciplines evolve, and our programs need to mirror this. At a very pragmatic level, competition among post-secondary institutions and enrollment pressures necessitate our attention to this. The introduction of new programs requires that we look at existing program mixture to ensure that it responds to our student needs. One of my colleagues recently proposed this analogy. We need to shine new light through old windows. This could mean repackaging programs such as we saw in the Faculty of Management with the introduction of the new agribusiness degree in management. The Calgary campus should also offer a broader programming mix beyond which we currently have. This would serve the diverse needs of working adults in Calgary and provide innovative ways for our students to progress through their academic programs in a true multi-campus university. Thirdly, our research culture. We need to ask this question: what type of research culture do we need to strive for and maintain? A fundamental belief of the University of Lethbridge is that quality teaching is informed by research. Research and creativity is at the core of who we are. Academic programs and research work hand in hand to inform each other. Ensuring our students are exposed to innovative thinking, creating an exciting intellectual community for our students and faculty is critical to our success. Research is also fundamental to our position as a Carey institution. To affirm our mandate, we must stay committed to elevating research culture and intensity at our institution. We should continue to focus on our role of better preparing the next generation of leaders of society. We are a leader in the development of those who contribute to the knowledge-driven future. Graduate students are the engine of our growth and success in research. The challenge is, of course, finding resources to support this growth and supporting our faculty as they seek grants to help us get there. We need to stay committed to supporting industry engagement, knowledge mobilization, and translation. The recent research info source on our university indicates that unfortunately, we are at the bottom of our category in this area. We can elevate our position without compromising our academic values or freedoms we enjoy as academics. By building mutually supportive relationships and partnerships with industry that recognize that curiosity-driven research is the fuel that ignites discovery, development, and innovation, we can make great strides in this area. And we should look to expand our research in all disciplines. Expanding research capacity by recruiting and retaining the most qualified candidates, increasing our graduate student population, fostering the scholarly development of our faculty, and providing a second-to-none learning environment enhanced by research opportunities for our students and postdoctoral fellows need to be our focus. And finally, connection to community. We need to realize that our role is more than just imparting knowledge. We are here to unlock human potential and to see that potential flourish through global citizenry. We are here to help our communities, both locally and globally, thrive. We are here to work with and support community groups, social, arts, and cultural organizations to make our community a better place to live. Ultimately, building a better society. Our connection to community has always been a core focus here at the University of Lethbridge, and one very important community has been our Indigenous community. As you all know, the university are about the search for knowledge through courses, degrees, and research. If you look at alternative perspectives, underlying ways of knowing, gaining knowledge, and methodology are simply different ways of looking at the same reality. We want to continue to learn from these alternative perspectives to ensure that Indigenous culture is woven into the fabric of our university, enriching the learning environment here at the University of Lethbridge. This past year, we hired Kathleen Massey, our new Associate Vice President for Students, and we welcomed Roy Podrzelski as Director of the Akuskani Gathering Place. Kathleen and Roy are co-chairing the GFC Iniskim Committee. They have resumed this important work to move towards an indigenization strategy. The new strategy will be guided by Roy's expertise, together with the wisdom of Dr. Leroy Littlebear, who we recently named as our inaugural Niitsitapi Scholar, so he may guide us through more strategically, both internally and externally. This will be a plan that incorporates the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and pulls together our collective efforts related to Indigenous cultures and peoples, something we began in the early 1970s and which many institutions are in fact just starting. We have already begun renaming our programs and services using the term Indigenous to be more modern in our approach. In December, GFC approved the renaming of Native American Studies to Indigenous Studies, and we look forward to updating other areas as we move through this year. We are actively analyzing opportunities for developing the land at the south end of our campus, next to our community stadium. It is very early days, but we have a unique opportunity to enhance the student experience, our connection to community, and the financial sustainability of the university through possibilities such as retail, food services, and housing developments. We are also actively exploring the concept of a primary care network, or PCN, on our campus, a co-location of health services for the university, also to support the residents of West Lethbridge. This is a unique opportunity to enhance health services for our students and to increase our connection to community by providing professional health services in one location. The Canadian Centre for Behavioral Neuroscience building could be considered as a home for such an endeavor. Our successful partnership with Radiology and Associates related to the MRI on campus serves as a proof of concept for this approach. We must also continue to build and support our internal community. We're pleased to welcome Chandra Singh, the new Chief Human Resources Officer at the university. Chandra will champion the people plan that guides and informs us as the university community. As I said earlier, you are the heart of our institution. Each and every individual plays an important role in our university and in the success of our students. You define our university, and you are our greatest strength. I know that we all recognize the importance of achieving the vision and direction of our strategic plan. I know you can all appreciate the work it will take to get there and the need to undertake a deliberate and strategic approach to achieving these goals. 2017 was a year of reflection of who we are and how we came to be. In 2018, we will work towards establishing our future. In the coming months, we will approach the completion of the Destination Project Phase 1, and we will work even harder to realize Destination 2. We will celebrate our outstanding faculty, as we did recently this year with Dr. Wismas' 3M Teaching Award, Dr. Kolb's induction into the Order of Canada, and Drs. Belanger and Whedon-Cote introduction into the Royal Society's College of New Scholars. We will launch new programs and learn of new research funding successes and opportunities. We will publicly launch our comprehensive fundraising campaign. And we will celebrate some of the most significant funding announcements in our history. Most importantly, we will see approximately 1,800 students join the ranks of our alumni, and we will welcome approximately 2,000 new students eager to begin their new journeys. At the heart of it, this is why, regardless of our roles here on campus, we are here. This, for me, reinforces our values of people, quality, and access. These values guide us in good times and support us in tough times. Our past 50 years illustrate the magnitude of what can be accomplished when people work together. Today, I set the stage for our next 50 years and a future that will be brighter for generations to come because of the work we all do from this day forward. Our passion, our ideas and tenacity, and our unwavering commitment to the ideals of liberal education and the betterment of society will serve to propel us forward. We create paths for people to shine. In doing so, we prove that together we really do shine brighter. Thank you again for your continued commitment to the University of Lethbridge, and I look forward to working with you in 2018. Thank you, and the floor is open now for questions. I invite questions about things that I've noted in the address, and all of that we ask is that you go to the mic so that we can have the question heard by our Calgary campus and those online. And Laurel Corbier is also monitoring questions, I know, on our website, and so we may have some questions read out. So with that, please.
Thank you, Mike, for informative assessment of where we're going and where we've been. Mike, we had Claudia Malacrida speaking at SACPA today regarding research money from the federal government. She gave us some hopeful expectations, but I just wonder if you could fill us in on your perspective.
Sure.
As far as where we might be going in that regard.
Sure. So just for those not aware, Claudia Malacrida, Dr. Claudia Malacrida, our Associate Vice President of Research, sat on the committee that was created by the federal government to really understand our research environment in Canada. What came out of that initiative was what's called the Naylor Report. And the Naylor Report presented what I would describe as a bold and exciting vision for research support in Canada across a number of sort of platforms, some of those platforms including, of course, our Tri-Council funding, support for the foundational needs of universities in terms of infrastructure, support for ongoing costs for universities on an operating basis. So the Naylor Report is now being championed as something that the federal government should support in this year's federal budget. I was just in Montreal for the last few days at a Universities Canada meeting and have spent a fair amount of time in Ottawa over the last number of months with Universities Canada lobbying the government around this directions that's envisioned in the Naylor Report. And I would say based on what intelligence I have is I am optimistic. I do think that there is a real potential that the federal government may come forward with some new funding and some bold directions to support research in Canada. And I'm very confident that at the core of that will be support for fundamental research through the social sciences and humanities. So the only thing I would say is it will always be a uphill battle to continue to convince the public and the federal government about the importance of research, and so all of us play a role in doing this.
My name is Andrew Blair. Given the close connection between liberal education and academic freedom, and given also that one of the faculty members in the last 18 months was suspended without going through the procedures of the collective agreement. What is the university doing to assure other faculty members that their academic freedom will be preserved in the future?
Thank you, Andrew. So I'll just say, of course, I can't comment on an individual matter of a faculty member. But what I can say is the university has always been vigorously committed to academic freedom, and I think we've seen that commitment through many years in supporting our faculty members in the various research activities, teaching activities, and more public activities they've undertaken. And we continue to vigorously support academic freedom. We believe it's the fundamental to the success of any university in the modern world. I was just, as I said, in Montreal at meetings of Universities Canada, and we had a very vigorous discussion about the challenge of continuing to support academic freedom in an ever-changing world. And so I think all of us need to remain vigorously committed to upholding academic freedom, but also understanding that the world is a very dramatically changing place, and so we're always going to have to be navigating the challenges of that rapidly changing world. Michael.
Well, I know you're talking in terms of a very high level of planning and looking out 50 years.
Yes.
And,
but what's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, what's happening tomorrow? I mean, as a professor, I'm thinking more along those lines.
Yes.
But I guess over the next 5 years, maybe 5 to
Sure.
10 years, this is a question about graduate education and how it's
Yeah.
fitting into us as a comprehensive
Sure.
university, and a nice big building going up and a needed building, and it's going to bolster the sciences. And as far as I can tell, graduate studies are doing quite well there and being integrated quite well with the undergraduate learning experience here as well. I guess I just see, I wonder to what extent are humanities and social sciences were being brought on stream, but I'm somebody who's seeing struggles in that vicinity. I guess, how do you see humanities and social sciences at the graduate level over the next 5 years, maybe the next 5 to 10 years, if that's an appropriate sort of question?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that the success of the aspiration that I presented to doubling our graduate enrollment is particularly going to be based on our success in supporting the growth in the areas of the social sciences and humanities. And we have seen some success in the last couple of years in terms of our funding through SSHRC, and that I think is an important predictor of the extent to which we have the capacity, we have the quality professor to support the aspiration of growing our graduate programs across all disciplines. And I think, you know, there are a few key vehicles that we have to continue to work on. One vehicle is Destination 2. And so we see the revitalization of University Hall as a way to, in the same way that Destination 1 created great enthusiasm and excitement around the sciences and around creating a transdisciplinary model in the sciences, I would argue that Destination 2 is really meant to do the same thing in the social sciences, humanities, and fine arts. And I would argue that that same push to look at a transdisciplinary approach is a very important thing. I think as we look at the evolution of science discovery and look at sort of the evolution of humanities, social sciences, and the like, that transdisciplinarity, interdisciplinary will be an important part of that solution. Secondly is, of course, funding. Funding is vitally important to ensure that we can recruit graduate students. I really look at funding from two perspectives. The first is pursuing funding from the provincial government, because we do not want to welcome graduate students to this campus that are not supported. And so we have to push forward at the provincial level to encourage the provincial government to look at new funding for graduate programming, and in particular in areas that are under-supported. The second piece of funding is funding that is directly related to the research. And this is where, as I noted in my speech, that I think it's very important that we support and encourage our faculty members to pursue external research funding, be that SSHRC funding or other sources of funding. And I know that the Office of Research Services is very committed to continuing to build the support in this area, and it's one that we really have to be committed to. And finally, I would say that you know, a big part of our success is going to be able to support our existing faculty members, but also to recruit those faculty members that are really inspired to come to campus, to create great quality experiences at the undergraduate level, but to really push forward on the graduate front, because that, in the future, is how we will be successful. Now, is that a 5-year, a 10-year? I guess I see it as something that we need to start working on and really have been working on, but really with some vigor if we're going to achieve that goal of doubling our graduate student enrollment. Haley.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. I'm Haley. I'm the president with the Student Union this year. I think as a student union, we're really, really excited to see this expansion, not only of physical space, but of different programs and options being offered for students. And I know, especially for first-year students, it can be very overwhelming to come to a university and to have all these kinds of options and services laid out for them. So I'm wondering, with the new building being built and with Destination Phase 2 on the way, are there any kind of plans for going forward with kind of strategic planning for physical space for a consolidation of student services to make it kind of a one-stop shop to make sure that it's easy for students to access those things that are available to them?
Thanks, Haley. Well, I can tell you that I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to suggest that the Provost and Kathleen Massey have that vision, and it's a vision that is very front and center in any discussions we have about space. And I think, you know, the whole, when we created the AVP students, it was very much about creating a model that was very student focused. And so, absolutely. The other thing I would say, Haley, though, is that my mention of other student spaces like the library, Markin Hall, Destination, are also about creating those spaces in a diversified manner so that students have that ability to have the quality of experience they should have all around campus. You know, when University Hall was built, and they put those platforms that were really designed to enable students and faculty to come out of their classrooms and stand around, sit around, and debate vigorously about what they just talked about in class. So we started this vision in, I would argue, in 1971 when that first building was opened, and we continue to affirm that as a vision for our students. And, you know, I guess I'll take this opportunity because our SU president asked a question to absolutely reaffirm that a commitment to doubling our graduate student enrollment does not take away our fundamental commitment to the undergraduate student experience. This university is known around the country for the quality of student experience we provide at the undergraduate level, and we will not falter in that commitment, but I do believe that we can have our cake and eat it too.
This question is kind of related to the question that Haley was raising with regard to space, and we're very close now to the end of construction for Destination Project 1, and you mentioned that we're getting into 2. I think at the talk last year and maybe the previous year, we've talked about Destination Project 2 and tended to center that conversation around University Hall redevelopment. But actually, and I think it's well understood that it's more than that. And it implicates other areas on campus like Hepler Hall, like CCBN, like Anderson Hall, like the library. And we seem to be a bit slow in terms of moving ahead with planning around a holistic approach, a systemic approach to what Destination Phase 2 looks like. And of course, one of the fundamental things that will drive that is the availability of funds. Why we were successful with Phase 1 was because we did one of the reasons, apart from the energy of yourselves in the President's office and the VP's office, apart from that was we did a major study of what some of the significant deficiencies were and things that we needed to work on to move that ahead to get the new building. Yep. And I don't think we've really done anything like that at this point. And it takes a long time, as you know, to get the funding in place for these kinds of things. And it's not too early to start this activity. I think we have to really start this right away. Maybe that's something that needs to be ramping up over the course of the next year, especially in a context where we're talking about having other faculties possibly being created, and the amount of capacity, time, and energy that would go into getting the resources to build, let's say, an engineering school, for example, which was one of the things you talked about, or a law school, for example, which is another professional school possibility. So rather than having all of these things competing with each other at the same time, I think we need to lay out a plan in a bit more detail now for where Destination 2 is going. And so can you comment a bit on,
Sure, yep,
on what we're looking at doing there and who we're going to involve in all of that? Thanks.
I sure can. So when we did Destination 1, the planning was sort of two-phase. The first phase we funded internally with a modest amount of funding. That really just got us sort of in a position to make an informed argument to the provincial government. And so we are beginning that part of the process, but it will be modest because it will be self-funded. The second phase was the more detailed plan, which ultimately is what enabled us to go to the provincial government with an actual number and with a very firm question as to supporting the Destination Project. And I think if my memory serves me correct, Nancy, it was $12.6 million, if I remember. And that funding was received by from the provincial government to support the planning. So what I can say is we're beginning the envisioning of that first kind of what would this look like piece. Yet at the same time, we're pushing hard for funding for the full-blown plan. And so, from a government perspective, at least my understanding of how this all works, is the government won't give you full funding for planning until they've actually committed that they're going to fund your building. And so our challenge is we just received $260 million from the province. And so I'm trying to find the right words that are convincing enough so that the province comes back and looks to support us again. Not to that same level, but it will be a significant number of tens of millions of dollars. And so, yes, we're working. I just actually had meeting with the Deputy Minister on Friday. I bring it up each time. And we will begin, the on-campus envisioning, and then we will start the same thing. We'll do the same thing we did last time, Chris. We'll use all of our different constituent groups to help us lobby. We'll use all of our different community groups to help us convince the provincial government that this is important. But your point about it taking a long time is absolutely correct. So we do hope that we'll get the kind of funding from the province that will allow us to do the more fulsome planning. The challenge is that this building was a very complex process. This next phase will be no less complex. In fact, some might argue it may be more complex because we'll be dealing with an existing set of buildings and looking at how all of it can come together in a uniform and exciting vision. And so that work is underway. But it is, I would argue, it is a challenge right now to convince the government that it's time to give us another mid of money.
Hi, my name is Brandy, and you'd mentioned a little bit about the south development, just south of the stadium. So I'm just wondering timelines in relation to phase 2 and how that all fits into the grand plan, and I guess where you're going from here in relation to that.
Yeah, so the land that we're talking about, for those of you that may not yet understand where we're talking, it's basically the land directly south of our stadium and east of our stadium going towards the coulee. That land represents approximately 40 acres. And it's land, when we've looked at that land and done our campus master planning, each time we've done a campus master plan, it's been clear that we have enough space on campus for the next 100 years or more in terms of the space we have that is north of the stadium. And so that land sits there. So the question is, should we not consider that land in the same way, say, Simon Fraser University has created University, as a place that we can do some innovative things around housing, potentially around programming, but also, and very importantly, generate some revenue. Because as I talked about earlier, I don't foresee the provincial funding landscape getting any rosier in the next while. So we do have to look at different strategies to self-fund. And so one of the potentials is to look at that 40 acres of land and to say, what could we do that wouldn't lock us in for the next 300 years, but would create a vision that would allow us to do some innovative things, generate some revenue, use that land in an effective manner. And this is what UBC has done, Simon Fraser has done, the University of Calgary is doing some of this, and so it seems prudent to us. So we have done some initial work on this, really at just the envisioning stage. We've informed the board that we're talking about this. The next step along the way will be to move more fulsomely into a envisioning process that would allow us to have a better sense of what the cost would be to develop these lands, etc. So that goes in tandem with Destination 2. And to add on to that, we of course are still looking at residences, because residences are important for our continued growth as a university and to support our vision as a destination university. So we have many irons in the fire, and I think any university that is thinking about the future does exactly that. To do things sort of one after another, as Chris talked about, takes a long, long time. So it's much better to continue to push ourselves to look at different aspects of our future, as my speech was meant to indicate, and continue to push ourselves forward. Laurel, are there any questions? All right. Are there any other questions? I don't want to keep anyone here longer than need be. Knut, you can always ask a few, I know.
Just, I know that it's dear to your heart, and funding is always a challenge with all over the university, of course, but I think particularly so for the athletic department these days. you can argue whether it's an important part of the university or not, but I believe it is. It's your biggest window to the community is your athletic department and fine arts department, I think. So I think it's important to have them well-funded if in fact you are looking at including the community in university affairs. So can you talk a little bit about
Sure. I would say our Pronghorn program, our sport and recreation services is absolutely vitally important to the mission of the university and the vision that we have as a destination university. I would also say so too is our fine arts programming and all of those great outreach activities that fine arts provides. And I would also say that many of our science outreach programs and the like also create that really important connection to community. All of them deserve funding. In the same way all of our academic programs deserve funding, all of our support services deserve funding. So the challenge for any university is to find that sweet spot around balancing all of the demands from a funding perspective and doing so in a manner that is fair, equitable, and transparent. And so that's our goal, is to continue to do that. And I know we are continuing to try to communicate about our budgeting process as effectively as we can, and we will continue to do so. But I would say that the pot is not getting any larger, and so the challenge is how we continue to do all the things we do and more with the limited resources we have. And that's why we fundamentally have to remind ourselves of our principal values of people, quality, and access, and use those values as we go through the very challenging discernment process of building a budget. And so it's great that you're a champion of Pronghorn Athletics. I know I see our executive director here, and he's happy to have your advocacy. And I think each of the folks in this room who represent different corners of the university are doing really important work in a variety of areas. So the challenge is, how do we support all of you in your various endeavors, including Pronghorn Athletics, to make sure that you can be successful? And that's what we'll continue to try and do as best we can. I don't see any other questions, so I'm just going to wrap up by saying thank you all for being here. It's great to have all of you out for the annual Fiat Lux Address, and good luck with the beginning, or I guess it's already begun, so good luck with the semester, and look forward to seeing you all on campus. Thanks.